Hey, brothers, sisters, Matt Hatton here. So, tree's still up, but my hair's down. You can thank 2020 for this. I have not seen my stylist in over a year, so he's probably going to be a little freaked out. And I hope his scissors are pretty sharp when I do meet up with him again. But let's jump into it. We're going to cover all the fire costumes as far as the new costumes in Empires and Puzzles that came out recently. There are about 8 of these that are pretty exciting. Among the new costumes, it's really giving you a nice variety of different roles or different things that you can do with these heroes. So they are across the board pretty cool. I liked the holy costumes a lot, but the fire heroes are also really good. So let's jump into it. We'll start with the rare. We have Jahangir, 3-star rare. He is going to be a good example of a costume that's looks similar when you look at the cards, but there is a significant difference. So if you take a look at what he's doing with his burn damage, on his original form, he was doing 114 damage over 6 turns. Now with his costume, he's doing 156 burn damage over 4 turns. So the thing to watch for on these hero cards is if the damage, like a burn effect, goes up, that's definitely good. But if the number of turns goes down, that's also really good, because what it's doing is you can look at it as the enemy team has a little bit less time to dispel the effect before it's doing some good damage. And essentially, more damage over less turns is making that damage that much more intense. So if you look at it like as a per turn view, you're basically doing even more damage per individual turn as you spread that damage over. So as far as Jahangir, he is now the wizard from the Sand Sea. His special is called Scorching Ray. He's still running at slow mana speed, but again, he's dealing 115% damage to all enemies, and then that burn damage is that much more intense than his base form. He's moving from a sorcerer to a wizard, so that's pretty cool. It's basically giving him a chance to do some increased damage based on what buffs might be active on the enemy team. So I think any more damage that he's doing to all enemies is only going to help. I do think he's best geared for like a tank or a flank 2. I wouldn't put him in a flank 1 position, mainly for the reason that he's really only doing damage and a status effect. He's not doing anything as far as lowering defense or raising attack. So you want to keep this type of hero a little bit later in the sequence as far as the specials going off, and then save those first or second spots for the heroes that are actually doing something that affects the enemy team or increases your damage or things like that. As far as his stats, if you fully level him up in the base form and the base form with the costume bonus, the stats are pretty good. But what we're really focusing on is the costume stats because that's how I'm going to be using him. He's going to get his attack up to 514, his defense 443, and his health 705. So not too bad overall for a 3-star hero, and I definitely think he's serviceable as a fire tank in the fire class, so that's pretty cool. His emblem path that I was looking at is taking him all the way up to 20, because for 233 sorcerer emblems, you can follow the emblem path of left, right, left, 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 right, and that's going to give you some pretty good stats again, so that he is usable in either a tank or a flank 2 position. You're getting his attack up to 624, which is really cool, especially considering it's attacking all targets. And then you're getting his defense just under 500 at 497, and you're able to get his health just under 800 at 798. So overall, those stats are really nice. You're also giving him a 1 in 4 chance on any tiles that are hitting the enemies for that normal damage for his wizard special to trigger. So that's pretty cool. So 233 emblems, I think that's pretty low to get him in a pretty good spot where you're going to be able to use him in a lot of the different 3-star events, or if you're a lower level player, you'll be able to use him. He'll be serviceable on your defense. As far as the next hero, we have Nashgar. So he has having a similar improvement that we just saw with Jahangir. His target damage over time is increasing slightly, but his turns are decreasing in half. So instead of 6 turns for that damage to spread out, it's actually happening in 3. So you can look at that as per turn, the damage that's happening over time for the burn damage is actually doubling in the impact that it has. So that's pretty cool. So I definitely think his costume is an upgrade. He is moving from a barbarian to a rogue. So he's going to have a increased chance to dodge special attacks that are coming in. So that's pretty cool. He is now the last to retreat, and his special is called Searing Strike. So he's running at fast mana speed, and he's pumping out some pretty good damage. So I really like this hero. I would definitely slot him in to a flank 2 or wing 2. I don't think he has the stats to put him in a tank, but you know, if you don't have anything else, he might be able to be put in a tank position. But definitely put him in the later part of your special sequence for your teams. His stats when fully ascended, you're going to be focusing on his costume, which is attack 567, defense 369, and health 715. I like the fact with his emblem path, if you use 18 of the barbarian emblems, you're able to get his attack up to 689, his defense up to 405, and his health up to 808. So the attack stat is really nice. Again, I think the defense is a little low to be putting him in as a tank, but definitely keep him, you know, as a flank 2 or wing 2, and I think he'll be in good shape. And then he's got a 1 in 5 chance that he's going to be able to dodge any direct specials that are thrown at him. So that's pretty cool on him, and I think the last to retreat title is going to be applicable, because I think he is probably going to outsurvive some of your other heroes if special attacks start coming in. So the next hero, now we're in the 4-star epics. We have Colen. So I really like what they did with his costume as well. I think it's an improvement. Again, you know, you're seeing the damage over time. Now in his case, it's going down slightly, but again, you got to look at the turns that it's spread out over. So he's going from 6 turns to do that secondary damage on his special to 3 turns. So that's really cool. As far as his new title, he's going to be called the Fiery Bounty Hunter, and his special is called Flame Assault. So he's running at slow mana speed. He's dealing 240% damage to all enemies, and all enemies are receiving that 204 burn damage over 3 turns. So the impact of his burn damage has really increased. He's moving from a fighter to a paladin. So I do think that this fits in with him being a slow hero. He's a very serviceable tank, or you can put him in as a flank 2. And I think he will do well in either position, just depending on what other heroes you have. As far as his stats, you're going to want to focus on his costume stats, which are 771 attack, 546 defense, and 1222 health. His emblem path, if you want to get the most out of him, I think he's worth putting 20 emblems in. You will be using, taking him up to emblem 20, excuse me. His emblems that will be required are 505 fighter emblems, but you'll be able to get his attack up to 839, his defense to 675, and his health to 1330. So his attack stat definitely helps. I think what's notable is you're going to want to get his defense and his health up a little higher so that he will be able to function as a tank and survive. The next hero is Gormek. So Gormek is an interesting hero. There are some things that are going on with this special that we'll go through that add kind of a niche type aspect to him. But I think overall, even if you ignore what's happening with the minions, I like his card as far as his stats and what he's doing with his damage. So I think the minion stuff is just a bonus, but let's look a little closer. So Gormek is now called the Covetous, and his special is Pulverizing Abacus, which is really cool. I think this hero was built for me, you know, abacus and math, get it? But his mana speed is average, so he's destroying all minions from all enemies, which is pretty cool. He's dealing 180% damage to all enemies, which is also nice. And then all allies are recovering 80 HP for each destroyed minion on the board. So because of how his specials are lined up, I really think he's going to be best as a flank 1 or a tank. He does provide some healing, which is nice, but I think the main thing about his positioning is because he's destroying minions and potentially helping your team with those minions that he's killing, you want him closer up to the beginning of the special sequence instead of later. You wanted to take the minions down and get that bonus first before your other heroes have a chance to attack and kill those minions. That should make sense. I hope it does. He's moving from a barbarian to a wizard, so that's also nice. He's gaining a increased ability to do damage if there are buffs that are active on the enemy team. So I think that kind of fits in well with him being a tank or a flank one. And then as far as his stats, you are going to want to focus on his costume, which will be attack 611, defense 606, and health 1511 when fully ascended. If you take a look at his emblem path, you can follow the emblem path of left, right, left, right, left, left, right, and get his attack all the way up to 740, which is going to be really nice considering he's attacking all targets. You can take his defense and his health up to 642 and 1628 respectively, which is definitely great if you want to explore using him as a tank. He's going to have a 1 in 4 chance on his tile damage to set off that class ability in the wizard class. And then it is going to cost you 505 barbarian emblems to get him all the way up to 20, which is how I'm kind of looking at his card. So 505 is worth it, you know, if this is one of your better options that you want to explore in the 4 stars and you have some of those barbarian emblems laying around. I think it's worth it to take him up, make him as strong as possible as an attacker, and then really buff his defense and his health as much as you can. So overall, really cool hero. Definitely excited to emblem him up and use him. So the next hero that we have is Kelile. So when I first saw her costume, I really wasn't too excited about it. But as I started looking at what was going on, I think her costume is an improvement. And I would definitely lean into using her costume over her base version if you do have both options. So as far as Kelile, she's now the Shaman of Dragonia. She is firing off a special called Dance of Ignition, which is running at fast mana speed, and she's dealing damage to all enemies, which is in the form of a burn damage, 304 burn damage over 2 turns. So what I like about that is she's running at fast mana speed, and she's got a nice burn damage that you can look at that's about 150 damage per each individual turn. But the fact that she's running at fast mana speed and her damage is basically being applied over 2 turns, you can think if you can keep firing her, she's going to be able to keep a constant burn damage on the enemies and keep refreshing that and refreshing that. So she's not really giving the enemy team a chance to dispel that, because with her at fast mana speed, she's really going to keep applying that burn damage. She's similar to a Gravemaker, maybe a junior version. Obviously, you know, with Gravemaker, he's doing a little bit more of the burn damage that's happening. Plus, he's putting a base attack on top of that, which is actually pretty effective on multiple targets. He's attacking up to 3 targets. So I would love to see Kelile if she had some base damage on top of her burn damage. But as far as a 4-star hero, you know, I definitely think you can do some cool stuff with her. I would recommend throwing her in as a flank 2 or a wing 2. You want her a little bit later in the rotation to apply that burn damage, but you don't want to be taking up one of those previous spots where some of the other attackers might be able to be buffing attack for your team or lowering defense. She's moving from a rogue to a druid, so she is going to have a chance to get that thorn minion, which is pretty cool. You know, keep her alive so she can keep burning the enemy down. As far as her stats, I'm going to be looking at the costume side, which is attack 746, defense 690, and health 995. So if you really look at her emblem path and try and get the most out of her, I would say it would probably be worth the 435 rogue emblems to take her up to 19. You can take her attack up to 843, which is really going to help in terms of a tile multiplier when she's coupled with other fire heroes. But then her defense, you can get to 800 and her health to 1060, which is pretty reasonable as far as a 4-star hero. I do like the fact as well that you'll have a 15% chance to get that thorn minion to pop up that can basically put a shield out in front of her and help keep her alive. and then it'll do some tick damage against the enemy, which is nice. So overall, really cool hero. I like how she's built. I don't think she's the best of the bunch, but she's definitely not a bad hero, and that burn damage could really cause a big problem for some of the teams that you put her up against. As far as the next hero, we're going to be looking at Scarlett. So her costume, again, another upgrade. I like the fact of, some of the stuff that they added to it. So with Scarlett, she's the assassin from the Sand Sea now. Her special is called Blades of Venom, and she's still running at fast mana speed. So she's dealing 185% damage to the target and minor damage to the nearby enemies. So if you don't know what that means, basically she's doing full damage against the center target, and then she's doing 50% of the normal damage to each of the side targets. So that's still some pretty reasonable damage. She's also doing a nice poison damage. So she's putting poison on up to 3 targets, 138 poison damage that's happening over 3 turns. So that's a pretty cool addition as well. And then she's also raising the attack of herself and the 2 heroes to either side of her by 30%. So because of how her special's built, I think she's going to be best served as a flank 2. Again, she's not doing any of the buffs or debuffs to helping the team aside from the attack. But with the flank 2, or I should say she is doing attack. I guess now that I think about it, you could put her as a flank 1. I'm still going to lean towards flank 2. But with the change from the rogue to the ranger, she's able to do a pierce attack now, so she's able to potentially bypass any of those defensive buffs on the targets. So pretty cool hero overall. I like how they built her costume. As far as the stats, you're going to want to be looking at costume stats, which are 769 attack, 561 defense, and 1172 health, which is pretty good. And then as far as her emblem path, if you were to explore it, I was looking at the path of left, right, left, right, left, left, really with the intention of trying to raise that attack damage up as much as possible so you can get that up to 897. You can raise the defense to 613, and you can raise the health to 1244. And then you're giving yourself a 1 in 4 chance to bypass those defensive buffs on the enemy team when you fire off. And that will also include counterattacks, so that's pretty cool. This path would cost you 395 rogue emblems, which is not too bad. So if you have those extra rogue emblems laying around, it might be worth it for Scarlett. I think she'll be a great member of a 3-2 or a 4-1 fire team. So I'm excited about her as well. I don't have her costume, by the way, but I'm excited to get it. So the first of the 5-star legendaries is going to be Khagan. So he's a mixed bag in terms of his costume, what they did with it. They didn't really improve it. I would say if you have Khagan and you got the costume, you're probably going to be best served by leveling him up and using his base version with the costume bonus. But this video is about costumes, so we're going to really see what we can do with his costumes and his stats. So as far as Khagan, he's now the Avenger of Tribes. His special is called Conqueror's Command. He's running at slow mana speed. He's dealing 514% damage to a single target, which is pretty powerful as far as a sniper. And he's also giving all allies plus 12% mana generation for 5 turns, and he's giving all allies plus 46 defense for 5 turns as well. So those stats don't look bad, but my problem with him is when you compare him with his base version, I think it's a downgrade because his base version was doing some nice stuff as far as multi-target damage. Now he's only hitting 1 target. And I think the big stickler with him is he's moving from a ranger to a barbarian. So he's losing pierce ability and he's gaining bleed effect, which is nice. But I don't think it's going to be as effective. I think the ideal situation, if I could reinvent this whole card situation, I would say if they could have made his base version a barbarian, I think it would be perfect. So with how he's built, I think he's going to be best positioned as a flank 1. The reason why I'm not going to put him in a tank has to do with his stats and what happens with them. So I think flank 1 would be good. I think you're probably going to benefit if it's like a a rush attack battle where everybody's running it very fast. I don't love the fact that he's running it slow, but he always was. So let's look at his stats. So as far as the costume stats, you're going to want to focus on the costume side. In reality, I think you should be looking at the base with the costume bonus. But as far as the costumes, his attack you can get up to 761. His defense is only going to be 691, and his health is 1529. So I think his health is good, but I really don't love the fact that his defense is so low, and that's why I'm going to keep him away from the tank spot. So I think in the flank one, he might be serviceable, and you can kind of keep him protected a little bit more, but just not overall a well-built costume hero. If I did emblem him, I'm not going to put too many emblems into him. I'd probably only take him up to 8, which would cost way too many emblems, but that would be 520 ranger emblems. You'd be following the emblem path of left, right, right. You'd be getting his attack up to 813, which would help, but again, his defense, you're only getting it to 709, which is nothing special, especially for a legendary hero. And then his health, you're getting up to 1565. Again, nothing great there. So overall, I think Khagan is a big miss. He's probably the worst of the fire costumes, but you know, that's fine. You know, you don't want them all overpowered. So unfortunate for people that were relying on Khagan's costume, but I think you can still, you know, be happy if you got the costume. Just use the costume bonus on his base. So the best of the bunch, as far as the new fire heroes, is going to be Marjana. She's really cool. Her costume is definitely an upgrade over her base version. So really excited about this one. I was lucky enough to pull her, so it's great. Hope that some of you that want her will get a chance to get her later, because she is really going to make a significant impact in not only the Titan battles, but she is really good in terms of a 3-2 or a 4-1 member of a fire team because of what she's doing. So she is now the Terror of Windermere, and her special is called Lava Blast. She's running at fast mana speed. She's dealing 358% damage to the target and minor damage to nearby enemies. So again, that's her primary damage, full damage against the primary target, and then she's doing 50% of that to each of the targets on either side, which is cool. She is also lowering the defense against fire up to 3 targets for 3 turns. So minus 54% defense against fire is what's making her so special against a Titan or the Mythic Titans, because that's a coveted special ability to have. And then all ice enemies are getting minus 34% attack for 3 turns, which is a really nice ability that's going to come into play in terms of putting her on a defense or putting her on an offense team where maybe they have some big ice attackers, like a Finley or somebody like that, that's going to be shoving ice attack at you. So she can really cut into that and knock it off basically by a third, which will be significant. I definitely think her best position is going to be a wing 1. You want her to go off early and fast before all your other heroes, so you can really take advantage of that defense down against fire and the attack down against ice. She's moving from a rogue to a wizard, which I think is great because, again, she's gaining the ability to do extra damage based on the amount of buffs that are on the enemy team. So that's just going to make her attack even that much more powerful. And the fact that she's running it fast, you're going to be able to get this attack off many times over throughout the course of a battle. So really great combination of her special and the change in her class. I really love almost everything about this hero. You know, just essentially maybe a perfect built costume. Definitely one of the best out of all 25 of the new ones. So as far as her stats, you're definitely going to want to look at her costume side. She's getting her attack up to 753. She's getting defense of 704, and she's getting health of 1499. So even without any emblems, her stats are very good, especially for like a wing where she'd be sitting. And I love the wings now. I've really started to look at wings that hit multi-targets instead of just the single targets, because I think that's where the meta is really being pushed. So I would recommend, if you have heroes like this that are running at fast mana speed and hitting multiple targets, you really should start to give them a little bit more weight than some of your single targets. As far as the wings. So just a word of advice as far as maybe how to get even more damage going out on the teams you're putting together. As far as her emblem path, I would look to go left, right, left, right, left, left, right. So what you're doing is you're taking her damage up as high as you can. So she's getting an attack value of 888, which is really high, especially that she's hitting that primary target and those two surrounding targets with damage. That's a pretty nice stat. Her defense, you're getting up to 740, which is going to make her, just that much more survivable. And then her health is 1615, which is really, really high. So this build is going to take her all the way up to 20. It is going to cost you 1,500 of the rogue emblems. And so I think they're worth it. Her big competition as far as my collection would probably be Frigg, but I would be willing to take the rogue emblems off of Frigg and put her on Marjana, because I think Marjana is just that good. She's getting a 1 in 4 chance to trigger that wizard ability and increase that damage against the enemy team, which is great. And then she's also got a 2% chance of critical damage. Crit doesn't really go off too often, but 2% is better than nothing. And then you're throwing on an additional 2% of mana gen that can stack with the mana troops that you're putting on her. She's running it fast, so you could actually, if you have ninja troops, you could actually run those as well and just take her attack value even higher. So really great hero overall. Definitely best in the bunch as far as the fire heroes. And don't worry, though, there are a couple good heroes that we still have to look at that are in the dark and the ice. Episode 3 will focus on dark. It will be, I'm not going to promise you guys a date, because every time I say something, it's like a day later. So dark will be coming out soon, and then quickly followed by dark. We're going to have the episode on the ice costumes. There are fewer of these dark and ice, which is good. I think we've hit most of them. We've already gone through 16 of the 25, so the videos will be a little bit quicker to make and get put out for you guys. But if you enjoy the video, definitely share the videos with anybody in your alliance or your friends. Thanks for tuning in, and we definitely look forward to seeing you on the next one. Take care, everybody.